welcome. We are here for another edition of the Apollo 11 Relive. I am proud to be joined by my good friend, Brian. What's up, Brian?
Hey, how's it going, Meat? How's it going, everyone? Hope you had a good week, and let's watch some spaceships.
Yeah. So what we're doing tonight is... Actually, I changed my mind when we were doing the intro. So we're going to start with... Ow, fuck. We're going to... Great start. So we're going to start with... Hang on. I thought we should do this before we start heading home. So we're gonna look at two videos first, because the third video is kind of long, anyways. So we're gonna have to cut it up because I really don't want to stream for 5 hours straight. So we're going to work through the docking and the rendezvous of the Lunar Module. So that's what we're going to do right now. It was really interesting how they did it with the flip and reattaching to the rocket. So we're going to start with that. That will get us all ready to start heading home. And then we'll start the journey home. We'll get partway through that. And then we'll save the second portion of the journey home and the entry, descent, and landing till next week. So let's say hello to everybody, and we'll get right into it. So, what's up, Obama? Hey, G-Tech. It's been a while. How you doing? His wife is a huge fan of it, is what I heard. Is that an accurate statement, Bri? I think he went. When I got really upset driving one day and started playing with my facial hair. Works. There's a drug shortage in America, if you didn't notice. So it's hard to get it right now. And Linda. Hello, Linda. How are you? For real, though, like, stuff is hard to come by in the good old US of A right now. Starting to get kind of crazy. Also, before we get going, did you want to comment on your Snidely Whiplash mustache?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so I was playing with my facial hair because I got really upset in the car. So I took a picture, and then our beautiful viewer, Mandy, 100% just drew it up like within like 30 minutes before this show. So I'm like, this is awesome. I'm going to put it on.
How much does your wife love it?
Oh, she hated it. Oh, 1%
man. Or 100?
Oh, she immediately got mad at me and told me to fix it.
Well, I think it makes you look distinguished, sir.
Oh, I believe it does too, so I kept it.
You should change your name to Chester with the hair, with a mustache like that.
I've got the straight to jail stash. It's like I'm playing Monopoly.
So, like I said, we're gonna start with Lunar Module and Command Module Rendezvous. So we've already taken off. Last week we saw taking off from the surface of the moon. Now we're going to see the docking images and footage. And then again, this is an AI upscale of the original footage, the original 16mm footage. So without further ado, we'll get started.
Otherwise, you just quit whenever you. Right. I can mark the volume control down a little bit. See if that stops it. Doesn't help, huh? No. Does end it.
Hey, HT. Also, I almost forgot, but this week I did the so supposedly Google, I don't know if you saw that one, Bri, but Google AI said that the U.S. moon landing pictures were fake.
Yeah, I saw that.
Do you have any input on that, or did you agree entirely with my breakdown?
I am not when I was not there for 100% of your breakdown because I was working when you did it. But
Okay.
from what I read third party by myself when I was sitting at work at my desk,
Mhm.
and then from like what I listened to, I think that it tried to do something that AI is not good at the moment, which is critical thinking.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think it's all bullcrap. Personally, um, the moon landing probably happened pretty easily in terms of like, it did happen, and it's hard to disprove it using AI at this very moment. That's what I mean by easily, which that's
Yeah.
not really what that means at all.
And again, I think that those images were definitely enhanced just by the track record of NASA. I think that they were certainly enhanced. Like,
Yes,
at the
but then
time, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, if they go and even if they even try to run this 42 FPS footage through the AI, they would call it fake because it AI generated the frames in between the extra frames it generated.
Exactly. Right.
So it would say it's fake because of the fact that it's upscaled.
Right. There's interpolation, and the image is not the actual pixels that were taken with the camera. So
Right. So you're going to get
by
extra noise.
right. So I mean, I guess by definition that's fake, but it's not fake in the way people are trying to lend credibility to it being entirely fake, though. So
Right. It makes it a good like kind of one for one with this would actually be in the Rittenhouse case with the magical gun that is now visible that was never visible visible in the first place.
right.
In the hocus pocus out of focus bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah.
would be the same type of situation. They just AI upscale rendered it so you see something that may or may not be there, and the AI is seeing that part, not the validity of where it was taken and when it was taken.
Right. So yeah, I thought it was weak, but screw you, XCOMer. No, actually, I have a Daz is going to be pissed because I'm using this clip, but XCOMer.
Go fuck yourself.
Anyways, hey Mandy. HT, what's up, buddy? Hey Digger. Yes. All right, so we'll get back to this because I think this is kind of spectacular the way that they did this. What's up, Forbidden? A lot of noise in this. I wonder if there's some solar storms or something happening.
Yeah, I guess it'll take us another 6 minutes or something like that.
Madrid, Houston, contact. Madrid. Pretty good, loud and clear.
Okay.
Roger, stand by for King and modulation check. This is Houston, contact testing, test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
Like
1,
you're gonna get
2,
the
3, 4,
break
5,
and skate right on the
5,
schedule.
4, 3, 2, 1, test out. Houston, contact Madrid, King 100% modulation to go. Roger. Gold Stone, King 100% modulation on the go. Roger, you're both go and meet me net 2 for further instructions. Roger.
Okay, let's put C-47 then.
So the only view we have right now is from the command module, right?
Correct. Yep.
I don't know why I lost my... How much, oh, did you... We lost your transponder, Mike. I think.
For a headset for you. We're completely out of headsets. Don't even have a spare.
Wish you would.
Is it possible for you to trade headsets with one of the guys sitting with you? It's not a headset. Is it?
Wait, is that it flying in from the bottom?
Yep.
Okay, we're getting it.
So yeah, you can see that. So that's the LEM. I forget. Michael Collins is on the orbiter right now, and the LEM obviously has Buzz and God. How come I can't think of their names right now?
Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin?
There you go. Neil and Buzz. Has Neil and Buzz on it. So
To infinity and beyond.
Neil and Buzz are coming in this craft that's right there. And then Michael Collins is on this craft that we're seeing the imaging from. It is pretty bad. Does it really say that? Because I don't know if everybody's fucking with me, but it's been screwing with me hard. So I wouldn't be shocked by that, honestly.
It says we have 12.
Okay. Because it has been genuinely, like, I'll finish a stream and let's say I have 21 likes and 1 view, and then it will be 1 view for the entire day.
See, until we started doing this, I did not know there was a third guy on this mission.
Yep, but he didn't land on the moon. He had to stay.
Well, yeah, because, I mean,
In
you
the
gotta have
orbiter
somebody
in
up there to
case
play
I'm wrong.
catch with, you know?
Right.
CMP's portion of the flight plan as far as that blows go, so we get men that bends in.
This is so impressive because it's like the equivalent of jumping off of like the Empire State Building onto a car that's moving below you.
Stay there. He changes it later on.
Yeah.
Specific
about
car.
10,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
What does the checklist say about this app load? The solo checklist.
See, for me, it's bad because it says we have 15 likes, but the 1 and the 5 are offset from each other.
They have to be having some kind of issue.
This is YouTube. They're always having issues.
I know, but it's been exceptionally bad as of late.
Then again,
They've
I
been
am on
treating me
Firefox, so
really
they might be
poor.
throttling me or whatever.
Okay, what is the configuration you want? R161107. Say what? Say again. 61102. At what time do you want this? Sometime along the front side here, this road. After they're done. Raj.
I'm not begging for likes. I'm just saying I don't know what YouTube's doing with me.
Okay, Pam, did you copy that?
We're not going to just sit and take down.
And the more super chats he gets, the better Christmas present he gets me.
That's true. That's true. Right now he's at nothing.
Damn. I was thinking a $3 game on Steam.
Whoa.
Which two are we using? No, we all quads on. I want to change BD roll.
So
Excuse me, yes.
everything that you I don't know what you want from me, audience. Okay, 2023. I know exactly what I want from my audience. I want you guys to enjoy the content and show up, and you do. So I'm good. I'm content. So everything you do in space is so even the slightest movement changes the entire trajectory completely around. It's insane. This is a really difficult maneuver to pull off. It really is. Because the LEM can't just drive up there. He can't just pull into it. Like, he has to drift. It has to be very deliberate. It has to take a really long time. And it has to be perfect. There's little margin for error.
So this part does look a little fake, just because the way it looks, but I know it's not.
Yeah. Nah, I know what you mean. So the left side, we're looking at the lunar excursion module or the LEM. The right side, we're looking at the control module, the one that stayed in space. So the left side has touched down on the surface of the moon. The right side has not. It's orbited the entire time. Let me look, because I'm not. I want to say it's only about 25 kilometers, but so the escape velocity is 2 kilometers per second. And
If I pitch over, I'm going to be looking right into the sun.
or 2.38.
You know how to roll.
This is Apollo Control. 127 hours, 50 minutes, round elapsed time. Less than a minute now away from acquisition.
See, you're never really going to escape the moon's gravity. Like, even our tides don't escape the gravity. So that question's a little hard.
That's why I was trying to look for something to make that. So the more accurate would be
how fast
would
you
be
have
your
to go in order to
velocity,
get away from
right.
it.
Yeah, which is 2.38 kilometers per second. So
Right, because I mean, like, say the moon or say the Earth disappeared. How fast would we get dragged towards the moon? I mean, everybody would. It would just be really slow.
Right. And you have orbital effects from the actual Earth, because the Earth is still the sphere of influence of the Earth extends beyond the moon. So, serious question: have they sent anyone to space with osteoporosis and study the effect? They have not. Everybody that's been to space has been in incredibly good health with no ailments whatsoever. But
when they come back,
right, they have sent samples, human tissue samples, and things of that nature, and have done biological experimentation on the International Space Station and precursor stations. So no, we've never sent anybody up there to see how it works, but yes, we have sent biological samples up. But everybody that's been up there has been in incredible health. But yeah, really good question. So now we're in a stabilized roll program that changes our orbit just a touch so that we can line up. And like I said, it is a very slow and deliberate process at this point.
I take it the top there is the entry and exit hatch.
Yes. Well, that's gonna be your connector. That should be where it connects to, if I'm not mistaken. So that should be your. Hey, what's up, Jacob Castro?
Wow, they really nailed this synchronous orbit thing.
It's impressive. It's impressive. This is not easy to do.
Yeah, I'm getting about into the right attitude, I think. Yeah, that's wonderful. I drove pretty far. I don't know just how much. Oh, it's going to come on.
Oh, whoa, whoa, too much, too much. Yeah, I think I heard that on the radio. I wouldn't pay Disney to make me a PFP. They'd make me a woman and gay and lame.
Okay, Mike.
I'm only one of those three things, thank you.
I'll get, try to get
Uh.
and you got it. How did the roll attitude look? Hot stop. Matter of fact, I can stop right here if you like that.
And we'll look at some figures and stuff like that once we watch the footage. So.
Like, hey, thank you, what?
The first reptiles in space were in 1968 when the Soviet Union launched tortoises into space.
Oh shit!
Well, we might need
Huh.
to at least have a flat.
They all survived.
Wow.
They did it again just under 10 years later, and they spent 90 and a half days in space.
Wow.
They all lived, and they're probably still alive today. Unless they were dissected for
Yeah, exactly. Because they had to get it right. What's up, Matt Sal? I know they had simulators here on Earth while this was going.
Be better if they done something for the Odins.
What the hell did...
Is that one of the pieces of equipment that they left?
I don't know. Oh, it autoplayed the next video. That's what it did. Okay.
Oh.
So that's kind of the process. I was like, what the fuck is it doing? So we'll go into a little bit. So obviously here is what oh shit, I was gonna get to that. I know that simulators here on Earth while this is going, but how are they able to match speed and conditions? Did they use a massive vacuum chamber? No, it's all math, and I'll show you in just a moment here. I'm not entirely sure, but that's all that NASA had. So oh, gross. So this is kind of our. So we take off up, and it was this figure 8 maneuver. So this is 4. Then we go run rotation. We start our lunar descent, land at 6, come back up. We go back around, meet up, and then come home. So this is kind of what was going on this time. So, we're gonna get into this paper. There's also a NASA paper, but I thought this one was a little bit better. So, when you get closer to the body, the planetary body, so when you get to closer to the Earth, closer to the Moon, your orbital velocity increases because you have to maintain that orbit. Since you're closer to the gravity source, you have to speed up. So you have to go faster. So you'll go faster because you're constantly falling and trying to break that pull of gravity constantly around the Moon. In this case, so you had to account for that. So here is when you fire on the opposite side of your apogee, then it raises it. So this had to be a process, and we'll see it down here. So in launch, we get in a stable orbit, and then we go here. Then we raise our apogee over here, and then we stay in this stable orbit for just a little bit. What happened to the module, they actually detached it once it got closer, because they had to transfer lunar samples over. They transferred some equipment, obviously transferred the astronauts, and then they ditched it and it burned up in the atmosphere. So, and
Extra weight, extra variability purposes, just cut it loose.
There is, but thank you for the super, buddy. Again, Comer, I appreciate your super chat, bud. Is there a stage from Apollo that had miscalculated orbits around the solar system, makes an appearance every few decades? Yes, and there's also supposedly one that's still orbiting the Moon itself. So I don't know, but that's what they say. So that's always been. I don't know that there's ever been confirmation for that, but there's been talk that one was left in lunar parking orbit. But so anyways, here's our next. So again, right here, you're burning to raise apogee, and you're going through a couple different corrections here. So you're trying to slow it down and reach this orbit. So a couple things is this has to be an incredibly tight orbit, because the smallest delineation, you're never going to catch it. never gonna catch up. So this is kind of the lunar module. So we got around, and then you're trying to catch up. So you're trying to touch. There's another picture of it. Now I'll go over to the NASA paper. So here is the so here's your insertion burns, TP1, terminal braking. So this is your maneuver. So nominal rendezvous maneuver, insertion TPI, and terminal braking. Time from maneuver, 7:45:43, and this is how much delta V. You also have burn times, resulting orbits. So everything was down to the math of the situation. That's how they were so close to being able to do it. So early in the rendezvous development, it was decided to incorporate Gemini-initiated line-of-sight thrusting TPI, as the direction of delta V was approximate along the line of sight to the target vehicle. Colliptic orbit situation. So there's a lot of effects that come into this, but it generally just comes down to math, and it comes down to speed. It comes down to orbit. All those different things. And this is a big long paper on how NASA did it. Not reading the whole damn thing, but yeah, I think there's 24 or so pages on this. I'll throw this in. I need to make a NASA
You have one. It's called Science and Math.
Oh, okay. And heliocentric orbit. What did you say? Science and math. What?
You can pin it in Science and Math. You're telling me you're going to put it in the Discord.
Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna do. That's why you work here sometimes. So they just got the math right, and they had pilots that were capable of correcting if necessary. So
And it's much easier to deal with that than trying to do it on Earth because we have atmosphere. The moon doesn't.
right.
So we have to
So
deal
you
with atmospheric conditions and air pressure and wind speeds. They don't have to deal with that on the moon.
Right, and you have to deal with the possibility of dipping into the atmosphere, and then you're coming back to Earth whether you want to or not. So,
Oh yeah, that's bad.
there's a lot of factors that the moon was more forgiving on than Earth, but we had never done it on the moon, so that's part of it as well. So now we're going to. So everything that happened from there to now was just a flight, just flying back using Earth's gravity to pull us back towards Earth. So now we're going to pick that up. We are, like I said, we're going to do half. At this point, we're going to do half next week. So we'll get to the point where the capsule splashes down, and after that, why is this mother? Why does this hate me? Okay, there we go. We'll get to the point where this splashes down, and after that, we'll get more into different procedures of recovery, meeting with the president, that kind of stuff, in next week's show. But we'll pick it up right here. And this is CBS's news coverage from 1969 of the splashdown and recovery of the Apollo 11 capsule. So.
Our own beginnings. Were it not for the moon and its effect on the creation of the Earth, man might not be on this planet at all, gazing into that luminescent face on countless nights, or reaching out for it.
Very dramatic.
On this day.
Did they get the Twilight Zone voiceover guy?
Sounds like it.
I wonder what he thought this thing was fucking fake.
Now man has not only reached out for the moon. 2 Americans named Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin Jr. have taken it firmly in their grasp. All that remains of this great adventure is to get those 2 astronauts and their traveling companion, Michael Collins, back to the shelter of Earth. They have faced many dangers.
You wouldn't have friction on the moon because there's no atmosphere, so it wouldn't matter. So you wouldn't have directional steering outcomes because there wouldn't be friction from atmosphere on the moon. So
but assuming there is atmosphere, which I think part of your question assumes that too, you may end up with some lesser amount of friction just because you're not going to have to, use as much force to escape gravity.
Right.
I mean, friction still exists. It's just you don't have to exert a lot of force because that's additive.
Right. It would be negligible on the gravity of the Earth or gravity of the moon compared to the Earth, just because of the reduction in gravity. Like you'd have to account for it if go into your equation, but it would be pretty negligible.
It's just additives type of stuff. It's not really too much different.
Well, CBS covered a lot of this stuff in 1969, so unfortunately, I was not a content creator at that point, or I would have been covering it live. And for some reason, NASA doesn't have a whole lot of it. Go figure. It would have been so tough to stay up there, like to become that close. To come that close and not be able to step foot on the moon would haunt me. I would want to step foot on the moon. I get it. Still get to say you flew around the moon for a couple days, but that'd be pretty tough. I don't know. Am I just being a selfish prick, or do you feel the same way, Bri?
Let's just say if I was that close, I may have to crash the command module into the moon.
So I'm not being unreasonable.
I want to touch the moon.
I agree.
I want to eat some to see if it's made out of cheese.
It is not made out of cheese, but
I still want to eat it.
A lot of helium-3, a lot of dust. But...
Oh gosh.
Dangers, and they've conquered them all. And there is no a reason to believe that this last one will not be overcome. But for all of us, the next 90 minutes or
Probably
so will
increase the volume
contain
now.
many anxious moments, and not until the three lunar adventurers are
Oh, hell yeah.
aboard the rolling deck
Hell
of the
yeah.
aircraft carrier Hornet are we going to really be able to breathe freely again. And then there will be time to
That's
cheer
true as
and
well.
to feel
That's
great
also true.
pride,
Well,
not only as Americans, but as
because of the way because of the rendezvous of the lunar module, all three of the astronauts would actually saw the dark side. Aldrin, Collins, and Armstrong. So, yeah, I mean, you can say you're cool with it, but are you? Are you really? Really? Really?
members of the family of man.
I would probably say I was cool with it publicly, but then I'd be like, God damn it, I wish I would have fucking landed on the moon. This is very cultish. Nothing creepy here at all. CBS, if you're trying to give us nightmares, it worked. It worked very well.
This is CBS News color coverage of Man on the Moon. The epic journey of Apollo 11, splashdown and recovery. Sponsored by the International Paper Company, where good ideas grow on trees. And by Western Electric, manufacturing and supply unit of the Bell System. And by Kellogg's. Kellogg's puts more in your morning.
God, now I want cereal.
Exactly.
Just outside Princeton, New Jersey, a new college has opened its doors. It has a campus and dorms, a library and labs, and classes in engineering, business management, labor relations,
Okay,
physics and
we'll
metallurgy,
skip past the ads.
and lectures in everything from public affairs to law. But if you were to drop in some night, you might find a student doing homework with the
into the atmosphere of Earth, and
There we
then
go. We'll skip
to
the ad.
a splashdown in the Pacific. The actual pinpoint of the target for the splashdown has been moved about 250 miles east by northeast this morning. So it's now around 950 miles southwest.
Look how the
of Hawaii.
advertisement was not just like
Point was
ADHD
moved
bait.
because the weather was bad in the original landing area, and it's not exactly perfect where they're going to come down now, but it's quite acceptable. The waves are said to be from 3 to 6 feet. The winds around 13 to 16 knots, and scattered clouds at around 2,000 feet. Now, if the waves are not too high and the wind is not too much and the scattered clouds don't bother the radar devices that will be tracking their reentry and landing, but those scattered clouds may deny to the people of the world who will be watching by satellite the color television coverage of their landing. Whether we get as clear a view as we have of
The excuse me television coverage?
Apollo 10 and their return from the moon, well, that will remain to be seen. The rough seas in the original landing area were one of the principal reasons for concern there. If the seas are too rough, these command modules, or as somebody said once about the Mercury modules, they're great spacecraft, but not very good boats. Well, they bounce around a great deal, can be very uncomfortable. They don't want the men getting sick in them. They want them to get as quickly as possible, though, into those biological isolation garments that will be tossed into the spacecraft as soon as the hatch is opened. But if the seas were too large, perhaps they couldn't stay in the spacecraft comfortably long enough, and they'd have to climb out and get into the garments in the raft that will be alongside, manned by one Navy diver.
There was a great deal of concern with what they could bring back from
BIG
space,
garments
so they had to be
on in the
quarantined and
spacecraft, rather
put
take
into
a chance
special
of
suits.
contaminating with any germs they might bring back from the moon. And people don't think they really will. Most scientists are taking all precautions against that.
From the
Well,
moon.
they'd rather put them on in the spacecraft and not to take the chance of contaminating the raft, but they will get into the raft first if the seas are too rough. These seem to be all right. The Hornet is standing by. President Nixon is on his way out to it to greet the men when they do arrive, and all seems to be going well for a splashdown 1 hour and 7 minutes from now.
God, imagine
Ryan
being greeted by
McLaughlin is at the
Nixon.
home of Mike Collins near
Oh, I
the
know.
Main Spacecraft Center for a report on how the
Dude probably
astronauts'
bugged the
families
inside
have
of
been
their
affected
shoes.
by the flight. Ryan?
The astronauts' wives almost are banded together into a little tribe. The idea is to get through this mission and then to get through those long periods when their husbands are away planning.
God, she's showing her knees. How
In
naughty.
many cases,
I
the
know.
overriding emotion is
I was
fear.
getting
because
excited.
these women are worried about what could happen to their husbands. Just as soon as one wife has successfully
She needs to go back to
negotiated the
vacuuming. I mean,
strains and the tensions of her husband's flight, she finds out that her
that's what
best friend's
Matt said,
husband
not
will
me.
take the next one. Fear is not new to these women. Most of the astronauts were
God, if
flyers
that's one of the
before they
houses of the
became part of
astronauts
the
that
astronaut
like
program. Some in
they
the
own or
military
something like that,
side,
I'd
some
be.
in the
That's
civilian side,
impressive. That's
like
like a
Neil
$400,000
Armstrong, who
house
tested the X-15.
Yeah.
today.
The dangers of space seem endless.
Yes,
So
it
$18
was.
Always
then.
somebody around who says something's bound to happen because things have been going so well. And there's no getting away for these wives. NASA protects them, but it surrounds them. And everyone who lives in this
It's true.
neighborhood works at NASA, and they don't talk about anything else except space flights, the mission, and who's going to make the next one. These women really
Probably.
are alone, except for their children and except for each other, and they depend upon each other a great deal. Their husband's work is dangerous, and their husbands are away from home a good deal of the time. And these women run the household. They pay the bills, they raise the children, they make the major decisions. And they always dread that inevitable publicity that comes after every mission.
It was
And
either
they
terrifying
worry.
or it was fantastic. I can't
Astronauts'
determine
wives
which one
are
it
always
was.
pictured as serene and calm and never concerned about a mission. But I think that Joan Aldrin gave testimony the other day to the falseness of that picture when she said, just as Apollo 11 was blasting off at Cape Kennedy,
He's in love,
she said,
dude.
almost
You know the worst part?
wouldn't it be wonderful?
My mom still does her
to
hair
picture
like
the
this.
countdown to the
Gross. Is that over the dress? Like I thought maybe at
I
first
think it's
it was.
part of the dress.
Is it like a dickie? Like over the fucking dress?
No, like it's just part of it. Like it's sewn into
Like
it.
that's the top of it? Oh no.
That's the top, and then the bottom is like, red too. It's just
Ooh.
the cord kind of looks like a zipper, but it's the mic cord because they didn't have wireless back then.
Huh.
But it sits perfectly and it looks like a zipper.
It might be a zipper because here's another cord here.
No. That's still part of the cord. You could see it like hook up into it.
Maybe. I don't know. This isn't It's like a torn open Heinz ketchup packet. All right, continuing on.
splashdown. Walter?
Thank you, Mariah. So from Houston, they're reading up some data to the spacecraft. We might listen just a moment.
What if one of the times they went to it, they're like, "Oh shit, we're all gonna die."
Men in Apollo 11 that they are now within VHF range. That's the shorter range radio
100%.
circuit from the spacecraft to Earth. No longer necessary to use those big dishes which have the range of the moon capability. They'll get on VHF circuits, and from here on out,
Apollo 11, Houston, back up S-band now, and we're standing by for command module RCS activation. Okay.
So reaction control system or reaction control clusters that change.
the sequence of events here that we'll be watching from the spacecraft now.
The fuck was that?
We have the first pictures here from the
Part of the
aircraft carrier
audio,
Hornet. This is the mobile quarantine facility that you see over there on the right, that aluminum trailer. 30 feet long, in which the astronauts will be escorted as soon as they come aboard the carrier. They will not be exposed to any of the personnel of the carrier. They will be kept well back. And
Slim One's pilot commander
pretty much
from Orlando, Florida.
They'll move right
That
into
hopefully
that
each of them
trailer,
finally
and
have their
trailer
own
then will be
room so they can get their
transported,
rocks
by
off.
the Hornet to Honolulu, getting there Saturday morning. From there, it'll be lifted off of the Honolulu, carried on to the airport there, and placed aboard a transport to bring it on to Houston.
Petty Officer Second Class Terry A. Muhlenbach.
It's good color we've got from the
and Petty Officer Third Class
from the
Mitchell
Hornet.
L. Bucklew of Sanford, Florida.
No, Matt. I think that was Robot Chicken, not Futurama.
Pacific, 950 miles southwest of Hawaii is good enough for us to get a picture of the splashdown.
Yep.
The picture we may get right after splashdown is likely to be look pretty humorous to those of us who are spectators.
I'm sure it was a converted airstream, and they
do when they get into the
NASA always liked that kind of
maybe 20 or 30 minutes
bubble look.
rubbing each other down with a powerful germicide to be sure that if there are any germs on the moon, and they brought
Rubbing
any
each
of them
other
back,
down
they
with
don't
the
survive
germicide?
that, first rub down. So there, as one of the space officials in Houston said yesterday, it's going to be kind of rub-a-dub-dub, 4 men in a tub. Those isolation garments to them and accompanies them back in the raft.
Fucking
CBS
hell.
News coverage of Apollo 11's return to Earth will continue in a moment.
I was not expecting that.
I'm not either.
You know I'm gonna get copyright strike for this, right?
Yeah.
Say
Then
it
again,
first,
America the Beautiful is public.
It takes about 100 years to grow a forest like this. It takes one careless moment to destroy it. Next time you strike a match, remember that.
Another international paper company ad?
Well,
Jesus.
we've heard from Houston that out on the recovery ship, the Hornet,
Tell
the
YouTube
8
that.
helicopters are now airborne with just exactly 1 hour before splashdown, which is scheduled for 12:49 Eastern Daylight Time. Actually, just a few minutes before dawn out there in the Pacific, but well after first light. It gets a little light before dawn, as you know, and in that first light, the splashdown is supposed to occur. The 4 radar reconnaissance
Next time you shoot bottle rockets from your ass,
also have taken off from the Hornet
forest.
and are flying their missions
Oh, they're great.
over the Pacific.
And terrifying, all in the
Perhaps,
same.
The first contact with the returning spacecraft will be from those radar reconnaissance aircraft. It's likely that they will be. They've got the big mushroom kind of domes on the top of them. Also aboard the Hornet are 3 2-engine transport planes. One of those will...
I was laughing at something completely different.
Immediately after the spacecraft has been recovered and been swung aboard, the Hornet will bring the precious cargo of 60 to 80 pounds of rocks that the men picked up on the moon and filmed back to Houston. That will get there considerably before the astronauts. It will be flown off of the carrier and should get back to Houston well within the next day, whereas the astronauts have to be carried by ship to Honolulu.
Hey, Mandy.
That will take till
Damn
Saturday
it.
morning itself.
This has got to be
We'll
my
back
first
in
clip.
Houston until very late
Mandy.
Saturday or early Sunday.
This is a message for you, dear.
Go fuck yourself.
You're welcome, Mandy.
Well, the big moment is here, Wally Schirra. The entry into the atmosphere and the parachutes blossoming and the splashdown in the Pacific. And as we were were suggesting last night. These are finger cross moments.
Smokey the Bear
really
commercials
are.
told
I
us you can only prevent
As
forest
I
fires.
said last night, when
He
we use
didn't
the
know
word
about
beautiful,
lightning.
we use it advisedly, but I think it's emotional. when you
Lightning
see
didn't
those three
exist back
parachutes
then.
out there,
It was
because that
made by
is really the most
Monsanto.
beautiful sight. Even though it's man-made, it's the culmination of a
Allegedly.
The series of events that we'll be reporting this
Obviously
morning,
parody.
12:18, which is just about a half hour from now, there's the actual maneuver, according to the flight plan, to the entry attitude. Then at that, minute 54 seconds after that, 12:20 Eastern Daylight Time, the separation from the service propulsion system engine, the service module.
I think it's my new favorite.
Its
Should
job, its service to the flight of Apollo 11, and it will no longer be needed. From there on, just that little command module at 12 feet of it is all that comes back from 360 feet of the rocket and all of the components. But there it is, all by itself out there. And at 12:35.
You don't listen to glowies here.
We have a clip to prove that those exist, Matt.
Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and.
See, they exist. AOC said it, not me.
For once, I agree with AOC, though. You know.
Yes.
15 minutes later, it enters the atmosphere about 80 miles over Australia, 400,000 feet, the 400K mark as it's called. Then
Does Australia
the
exist,
blackout
though?
begins almost immediately thereafter, within 15 seconds. And
No
we
comment.
have those long 3 minutes of no communications as the ions build up around
AOC
the
is
spacecraft and
clinically
that
insane,
5,000-degree
allegedly.
heat of reentry, actually burning away the blunt end of the spacecraft, an ablative shield. It melts it, burns away a great part of it, chars it badly.
So it has a carbon ablator, and it was made to
astronauts,
actually
And
burn,
incidentally, this is just the third
build up the plasma,
spacecraft
and
to
that
come
would
back, of course,
would
from a
the
lunar
spacecraft
trip,
safe.
which means that this is only the third time men have ridden a spacecraft back at that tremendous speed of 25,000 miles an hour into the atmosphere.
So like a
and have
make on
endured
arrival
that,
shield?
5,000-degree heat.
Pretty much.
It's interesting to
So
realize I cruised
sometimes
back
they
rather
use
slowly with Apollo 7. It was only 18,000 miles an hour.
What's the
they've used
scene,
things like
Wally,
wood.
as you, look out
So
the
anything that
window
will
and
ablate
fireball
a blade of
can
carbon, so
become a
anything that will
Well, the
burn
colors are
and
quite
create a
spectacular. Of
barrier.
course, typically in the role I was in, I wasn't able to look out as much, but still out of the corner of the eye, I could see the shades. There are pastel shades of light green, light yellow, light purple, almost a violet magenta. And this, of course, is the different elements in the heat shield, the chemical and metallic components that characteristically show these colors. Copper or brass or bronze, as we would normally see it, gives a green. You know how a green exudate sort of forms on a copper pipe. Well, that same green shows in this glow.
No, what they should have done is they should have taken
as you
graphite,
pick up velocity.
coated the entire outside with graphite, and made diamonds, then sold the
We
diamonds.
have a totally automatic
I would have bought one.
reentry capability with a controller.
Everyone would have bought
But
one.
We found on our first
There's
flight
enough
that it
heat and
was
pressure for
ideal
that.
to lead
Mhm.
the spacecraft down this corridor to a certain point. Then the computer can do better, but man can do better for a part of it, where you can save
Did they have
fuel or
graphite back
detect
then, or were they still
components
using
that
lead
also
pencils?
may or may not be faulty, and switch to the other.
They're probably
The
still
computer
using
doesn't have
lead.
that type of logic. It'll just sit there and drive away and waste fuel on reentry. And we, of course, must
It's
worry
confirmed
about that.
as an
This is the
Israeli.
fuel that's been
Mandy
carried in the
keeps a
command
laser
module the
pointer
whole
in her
flight,
purse.
never been used until a check, usually before separation from the service module. So that's been dormant now for over 8 days. So you want to check it quite carefully.
Is there any backup for that fuel? There isn't once you go on the RCS.
But there are two separate systems, each independent of the other, and two thrusters, two jet rockets in a way, for attitude control, which is all you have at this point. You don't translate. We vary the lift of the vehicle to change our position downrange by rolling left or right or whichever direction is required.
The difference in this reentry and reentry from orbit, of course, is that reentry from orbit, you slow down, so you drop back into the Earth's atmosphere.
Right.
This thing, you're not slowing down at all. This is a direct entry right down in.
No, you could develop enough lift as you slow down to go back out again.
Yeah.
Actually do this.
That was a concern.
Re-entry
They
angle, I
thought
think
that
it's almost 6.5
they thought that the
degrees
angle of
negative
attack
below the horizon.
Could
If that
bounce
angle
off
was
the
slightly
atmosphere
off,
and go
you'd
back
have
out.
the lift capability to
So.
drive you in the atmosphere and actually dig in.
Legit?
To a limit of about
Yeah.
10 Gs, which is 10
Mhm.
times your weight. If the angle is too shallow, this is what you would do. Now, if it were quite steep, you'd want to eliminate this deep dive, if I can put it that way, into the atmosphere. I'm
I
talking
don't
really
think that's
small
right.
numbers. Then you apply lift to ease up into the atmosphere a little bit rather than dig in very deeply.
Well, I think their profile of entry includes a couple of these little
slight
roller coaster
rise,
effect, a little rise to reduce that.
They don't go back to 0 G again now. Once they see some G develop, and that was one of the rules we said long ago, once we see some G, meaning we're captured by the atmosphere, we'll continue building G, or at least maintain a certain level.
Ideally, they'd get to 6.6 G, I think it is, on
think
this reentry. 6 times
Six
gravity.
times your weight.
Six times gravity, yeah.
CBS News coverage of Apollo 11's return to Earth will continue in a moment.
This is the coffee. It doesn't care that
That'd
it
be
looks
so much
different.
force on your body.
It's the way coffee is going to look from now on. The coffee.
I mean, if they came in the steep way and
It
you were
doesn't care that
you were
it
10
tastes
G.
different. This is the way coffee always should have tasted. Now it does.
So
the coffee.
Is this not outfitted
It
with
doesn't care who
like
brews it.
parachutes and
You
shit?
can't brew it bad.
It is, but you wouldn't deploy parachutes that high. They'd just get ripped off.
It doesn't
That's
care
true,
that it
that's true.
comes in a jar.
25,000 miles per hour with
knows
that
it's
kind of
different from
atmosphere.
anything
Yeah,
else in
they
Yeah,
just
hell
get
no.
torn off.
Only if
The
they
coffee.
aim for the hole, you know.
It doesn't care about all
The hole in the
old
firmament.
coffee ideas.
I know that was the most impressive part.
It's the coffee. It's all by itself.
Radium girls.
Apollo 11's hurtling home at an ever-increasing speed until it gets up to just about 25,000 miles an hour. Another
I too lick the radioactive paintbrush.
47 minutes from now, 46 minutes from
I
now,
think
and
we
then
all did.
splash down 52 minutes from now in the Pacific. The President of the United States, President Nixon, is just about to arrive on the aircraft carrier Hornet there as it waits to recover the astronauts 950 miles southwest of Hawaii. We have a report now from Dan Rather, our White House correspondent, who traveled to the mid-Pacific with the President and is now on board.
All their commercials are very forceful. Very,
This morning,
very,
he was scheduled to wait for
very
cereal, which
forceful.
calls itself the Breakfast of Champions, before he flew off of the USS Arlington
Dan Rather.
onto here, the
Holy
USS
hell.
Hornet.
They're both
Mr. Nixon was a
forceful,
land
and I can
based
promise
naval
that half the
officer during
people
World War
watching
II.
it did
He
not
had never
actually
slept
pay
before
attention to the
ship
commercial
before
the entire
last evening.
time.
The vessel
Because it
was
didn't have
the
enough jump
SS
cuts.
Arlington, a converted cruiser, now a communications center and aircraft carrier. Aboard the Arlington, before helicoptering out for the Hornet, Mr. Nixon walked among the sailors, congratulated them, talked about how much Apollo 11 is a team effort, and in general extolled the virtues of space exploration. That's a theme along which he's been building to a crescendo all week, talking about it in Washington, in San Francisco, aboard his own plane, and now at sea. Astronaut Frank Borman has been at the president's side almost constantly. Borman now is to Mr. Nixon what astronaut John Glenn once was to the late President John Kennedy.
very true.
Mr. Nixon apparently will continue talking about and preaching the gospel of future space exploration when he takes off from the Hornet later today to go on tour of Asia and to Romania. The president's mood, in the view of reporters traveling with him, has been extraordinarily good. He has appeared to be more relaxed, less guarded, having more fun than any time since the inauguration. He is so obviously and genuinely exalted
Coffee brand coffee.
about the success of the main
Hey, what's up,
moonshot
Crystal? How you
that one
been?
reporter, Peter Lisagor of the Chicago Daily News, says he wouldn't be surprised to see Mr. Nixon fly out in a space.
Oh, that's a name I haven't seen in a while. Hi,
Crystal.
Crystal.
Would be surprised to see him go that far, but there's no question that the president is caught up in his own personal version of moon mania. Dan Rather aboard the USS Hornet.
CBS News coverage of the recovery of Apollo 11 will continue in a moment.
control
they
of
are.
laser
There's the
beam.
Jewish space lasers.
It was still just a gleam in the eyes of scientists until 1965, when engineers at Bell Labs and Western Electric became the first to put the laser on the job in industry. The job? Piercing holes in industrial diamonds to make thin telephone wire. Today, Western Electric uses the laser to cut material for thin film electronic circuits. We also use the laser to measure and to weld tiny parts for equipment we make for the Bell telephone network. Someday, the laser beam may transmit telephone calls and other data. Someday, you may find yourself talking over one. Western Electric. We make Bell telephones. We were also the first to put the laser beam on the job in industry.
That was an awesome commercial.
That was
CBS
great.
News color coverage of Man on the Moon, Splashdown and Recovery continues after station
Especially if it's
identification.
Hawaii.
This is CBS. The Epic Journey of Apollo 11. Sponsored by Western Electric, manufacturing and supply unit of the Bell System, and by the International Paper Company, where good ideas grow on trees, and by Maxim freeze-dried coffee.
So 60%
Here
of
again
me
is
wants
Walter
to
Cronkite.
get past the commercials, but
The picture
I'm
you see on your
I
screen
enjoy
is
them
from
too.
the U.S. carrier.
Sorry, I
Summit,
haven't been paying attention.
950
What happened with
miles
commercials?
Southwest of
I
Hawaii.
said part of me wants to
awaiting
I'm
skip
the
by the
kidding.
commercials.
splashdown of the Apollo 11, scheduled for 46 minutes and 20 seconds from now.
Exactly.
The Apollo 11 is now 7,000 miles from Earth,
No.
17,000 mile per hour speed, and picking up speed every second and closing that gap to the return home. They're waiting at the Hornet for the arrival of President Nixon. His plane
Yes?
is less than a mile away, we are told. We'll be hearing from Dan Rather when he does touch down there. This mobile quarantine
I think
facility
so, Mandy.
is a 30-foot
No,
long
Maxim's
aluminum
like
trailer equipped with a small
it's like
wardroom
Sports Illustrated
and
swimsuit
a
edition,
kitchen,
but monthly.
6 bunks.
Oh, yeah.
6
See,
bunks,
they don't have
and
like magazines anymore.
sanitary facilities, of course.
I think
It
Maxim's
is in
still around.
there that the
Is
Apollo
it?
11
Wouldn't know.
astronauts will be ushered as soon as they get to the aircraft carrier. And it's through those windows you see there that President Nixon will first greet them. This quarantine is decided by Earth scientists who fear the possibility of
Yeah, looks like it.
contamination from living bodies on the moon. It's doubtful that there are such, but just in case there were, they might come here, and we have not built any immunity against them, of course.
See, Matt here knows
This is
how
a
to.
Maxim. This is a Maxim photo. I can show it on YouTube, so it's okay.
Well, I'm pretty Maxim right now. Anywho, Matt really knows how to explain it to a Zoomer. Instagram is to OF as Maximum is to Playboy. They see that makes sense.
Exactly.
Quarters there.
Exactly.
To stay until August 11th. They undergo
See,
all
that's one thing I have not found is my dad's box of Playboy magazines.
tests of any kind. Somebody said this morning,
I found a first edition fucking Mario cartridge,
Jim Lovell,
but
talking to the
no
astronauts
Playboy.
of the Apollo 11 crew,
And I've
that
looked.
the most difficult part of your mission is going to be after recovery. And Columbia pilot Michael Collins answered, "Well, we're looking for a dull part then." And Lovell quipped, "Please don't sneeze." The thought being that if any of them catch a cold or sneeze, why the doctors are going to immediately wonder whether they've caught a moon cold, and might even extend that quarantine. And that's the worst thing that could happen to these fellows.
See, I don't know if that's the reason, Matt, or if it's just, you know,
quarantine extended.
he was
Collins
able to
said,
get enough women to
"Keep the
always be
mice healthy."
satisfied. It was one of those
This
things.
means that these control mice that they will have in the laboratory.
Then
there
again, I've seen his
also
video
mustn't come
games.
down with
I think that might be wrong.
Let's listen to Keith McGee now aboard the Hornet. This picture breaks up.
Or enough men. You right.
Just lost
You
our,
right.
Audio as I introduced him with the Hornet. One of our radio television pool reporters is Keith McBee aboard the aircraft carrier Hornet, and he was just starting to come in when we lost the picture and the audio from the Hornet. As soon as he was to, I believe he's coming up here now.
Hear the whirring of the
Oh my God, you had something in common with Brian.
He is clearly trying to report to us the arrival of President Nixon and his party aboard
Jenny.
the Hornet.
Hi, Auntie.
But the reception is very poor.
So that's the carrier.
So why do they aim near Hawaii every time?
Like they said, they had to move it to about 200 miles because they were slightly off. So it was not intended to be by Hawaii.
From the sound of
Because they probably wanted it
aiming
close.
near there too, though.
To catch number 1 or number
That's
3
true.
wire, as we discussed
I don't know.
some time ago. Of course, that's the old goal of every carrier pilot, is to catch the appropriate
Mandy, it wasn't
wire.
dry soap.
These days,
That's
with
a
the
very
man on
interesting
deck,
story,
we
Mandy.
prefer to catch a number 3 wire.
Still not dried soap.
Number 1 through 5. And
Come
of course,
dries
the wire
into
is the
fucking
arresting
films.
gear that brings the aircraft to a stop on the flight deck. In this case, I'm sure we didn't see the picture, but the helicopter just merely lands on this flat surface.
Yeah, and he's only got to come a fairly short distance from Johnson Island, where he went last night. And I suppose he is coming by helicopter. We couldn't get that reception from Keith McBee right there, but we'll bring him up just the moment that the wires, the lines, the microwave and satellite relays clear up enough for us to get reception.
Here's banjos.
Clear up before the actual splashdown, now scheduled 41 minutes from now.
This would have taken an incredible amount of bandwidth
this morning, as we've seen.
Like, you would have the resources that we had on Earth for everything would have been so spectacular. It would have taken everything we had. So no wonder they couldn't contact something in the area.
Pacific, and first light will not come for another 35 minutes.
Yeah, like this was enough to essentially cause an internet blackout.
We'll begin to get light, and there should be plenty of light to
Wait,
see.
it wouldn't be internet at the time. It would be
clouds will permit
phone line blackout
parachutes of Apollo 11. Assuming also, of course, that they are on target and that the Hornet is on target. The aircraft carrier has to be where it's supposed to be, too. CBS News coverage of the recovery of Apollo 11 will continue in a moment.
Mandy, just be happy you wasn't using socks.
Near Honolulu lies Makaha, famous for surf. Here at Makaha, an unusual surfboard, a paper surfboard, made of a new corrugated paper from the International Paper Company, called Cordura.
Called what?
Wait, a paper surfboard?
You're talking about corrugated paper.
Stays rigid, no matter how wet it gets. Look for some big changes in the produce industry, the shipping industry, the construction industry. Wherever corrugated paperboard has to stand up.
No, I never used socks. I was saying, just be happy you didn't use them. Because you find the poop sock, mom's going to hit you.
New Cordura from the International Paper Company, where good ideas grow on trees.
Well, the spacecraft Apollo, after this historic mission to the moon, is finally really back in our Earth environment. We heard through Houston a moment ago from the spacecraft that the sun is going down on schedule. It's getting real dark in here. So they're disappearing back behind the Earth in relation to the sun, and they're beginning for the first time in 8 days to experience the same sort of environment that we on Earth are. They have returned to be Earth people once more. They're seeing a sunset for a change. They're now 4,900 miles from Earth, speed picking up every second. They're now traveling 17,000 miles an hour. They'll be going 24,677 miles an hour in the next 38 minutes before they enter the atmosphere and begin the splashdown procedures. They're going to pick up 7,000 miles an hour in speed in the next about 35 minutes, which is pretty good acceleration for anybody's vehicle. A moment ago, when we tried to hear Keith McBee aboard the aircraft carrier Hornet, we were getting broken shortwave reception. The satellite feed from the carrier Hornet carrying pictures and sound for some reason still unexplained has been lost for the moment. They're hoping, of course, to reestablish it any second now and to get good pictures of splashdown and the recovery of the Apollo 11 astronauts. I was mentioning just a moment ago, Wally Schirra, about the accuracy of the splashdown and also the fact that the carrier has to be in the right spot. That's a pretty good navigational feat, to be within a few hundred feet or a few hundred yards of a given spot out in the vast Pacific with no landmarks.
It is, and this particular type of carrier, or at least the helicopter carrier that is working in anti-submarine warfare, really doesn't care where it is geographically unless it's close to land. Its tactical problem is relative motion with another force. I discovered this quite by accident after our Apollo landing on Apollo 7, where the onboard computer said we were less than 3/10 of a mile from where we wanted to be. And we were filed for a record on this one, so we were really trying to do something with it. And that's what the spacecraft said it was doing. Now, the carrier said, well, we were somewhere within 3 or 4 miles of the landing position. I finally had a discussion with a very dear friend, Admiral Moore, who's the Chief of Naval Operations of the Navy, and said, Admiral Moore, I know where I was, but I guess your ship didn't know where it was.
Well, no, that's true.
It is.
I mean, your computer is probably as good in assessing your landing location on the face of the Earth, on the grid, as the ship's position.
Well, in fact, it's much more accurate. I had a flight just recently coming from Rome to the United States in a commercial transport, a 707. And on board were 2 qualified inertial navigation systems, exactly as we have
These
in the spacecraft.
guys
Not
seem
identical, but
significantly
very much alike.
smarter than the
And from
average
Rome to Gander, Newfoundland, we missed by 8/10 of a
news
mile.
anchor
That's the
nowadays.
kind of systems we have coming out of the space program, used for space navigation and now for aircraft navigation.
Arthur Clarke is with us here, our our science fiction writer, 2001 author and all of that.
Well, part of the navigation system now depends on satellites. The
I
navigation
was thinking the same
satellites,
thing.
which are
They
now
seem very
available
well
to all
informed.
nations, all navies. They have an accuracy of about 1/10 of a mile, I believe.
They do. This isn't implemented on all of
And
the
they
ships
didn't
now.
bring up race once.
They will be.
Truly
Oh, yes.
racist folk.
Well, we get that with
Not
every one
yet.
of these landings now. You know, we get a constantly changing
No equity either.
value from the Navy as to where you are in relation to the ship in the first place, and then where they are in the second place, and then
True.
finally what the landing accuracy was in the third place.
Well, it gets kind of frantic towards the end. I can recall in our case, from Houston, I was hearing you're coming down the pike, you're right in the barrel, this kind of thing. And the captain of the ship heard this conversation as well and said, well, in that case, I think I'll move
And it
out
was
of this
it
area.
was a quote prestigious
before the
position
Apollo
at the
7 flight, I
time,
was
so they all
serving
acted
bait with
very.
George Miller and Professor
I don't
Scott
know what the
Draper
word is,
designed
but
the
you know what
navigation system.
Stiff.
I'm
They were
talking
betting
about.
each other.
Yeah,
You'd
it's stiff.
you'd
There you
land with
go.
an accuracy, I think, of about 1/2 a mile. And one said, no, it may be about a mile. So that was what they were thinking in terms
Well,
of.
we did that. It turned out, but there's no
Because
way
these
to.
they're supposed to look
prove where you
casual
landed.
yet
Much like
professional.
we don't know where the Apollo
Still
11
very
crew was on the
stiff.
moon. We know they were exactly there.
Right.
But where exactly?
But
was,
not
we don't know.
sitting up straight. They're
That's
leaning
right.
forward.
And of course, they're still worrying that problem, and will continue to for some time. They may find out exactly
Cool,
where
calm, and
through orbit
collected,
with
but
the laser, but they haven't yet been able
professional.
to fix
They
that
ain't
laser beam onto the
slouching.
reflector because they don't know where to aim it. President Nixon's helicopter has just set down on the deck of the Hornet, but unfortunately, we still don't have pictures from out there yet. We can perhaps hear Dallas Townsend aboard.
Or
the
we didn't know they were
launch
lying to us at
Blue
that point.
flag, which has been painted on the flight
That's
deck.
true.
Secretary of State Rogers, along with him. Colonel Frank Borman,
There's the carrier.
commander of Apollo 8.
We had a hard time parroting each other because communicating with each other was harder.
President Nixon,
Yeah.
escorted by high officers of the Navy.
They had to put in the work.
Carl Davis,
You couldn't just wing it back then.
director of the Lunar Landing and
You couldn't just send a link to the U.S. government telling them to ban people for talking about things that you don't want them talking about.
Right.
Admiral McCain, the rather slightly built admiral,
He did say rub it up dub
to the right of
stuck in a tub.
Dr. Payne. The president
I think he said 4 men in a tub.
4 men in a tub, yeah.
of the national recovery team on board.
Rub it up dub 4 men in a tub.
Walked over
Which
to
is also the name
door
of my
in the rear
OnlyFans.
mobile quarantine facility. John Stonecipher is now giving him a brief explanation of the situation here. The MQF is the area into which the astronauts will be sealed as soon as they are brought on board. Secretary of State Rogers standing a few feet away with Thomas Paine, NASA administrator.
Yeah, no, my feeling
General
is
Frank Norman on the
skeptical.
right of Secretary Rogers. Dr.
Sad.
Stonecipher talking to the president. Standing there, the curtains have been drawn in the window in the rear door of the MQF. The president looking very happy. Obviously, a very good mood. In these final minutes of Apollo 11.
At least it isn't Fluffer Boy Mandy.
True.
MQF very zealously guarded from possible contamination by earthbound personnel here on the ship. The president looking now into the lounge area. There are 6 chairs in there, very much like the chairs you find in first-class sections of modern jet airliners. The chairs are movable. They can be shifted back and forth slightly, turned in one direction or another, and there are restraining straps on the chairs. The astronauts would use those.
We're
straps.
standing by right now to hear from Houston that separation has taken place. The maneuver to the entry attitude should be taking place right about this time, and then within 2 minutes after that, the separation of the command module from the service module with the service propulsion system engine. And as Wally and I were just saying here, Wally to me, that of course is a critical maneuver. That separation must take place because the heat shield end of the command module is buried there in the service module in its flight configuration. You've got to get that service module off of there to expose the heat shield for safe re-entry of the command module.
Because if not, it would just burn up.
We've got Houston piped in here so we can hear them when they begin to talk to the Apollo 11 and hear that they have maneuvered and that the separation has taken place. It should come in the next 1 minute and 2 or 3 seconds from now, according to the flight plan. There's no communication between Houston and the spacecraft at the moment that we hear. If these Mike Collins is the pilot of the command module, Neil Armstrong, the commander, Buzz Aldrin are talking to Houston. We're not getting it piped through to us, which is unlikely. They probably just are busy at the moment getting set for separation.
We may be out of contact now, too. We're spoiled by this long S-band range all the way out to the moon and back. Now we're back in Earth orbit where we may not be over a tracking station.
Right.
Guidance officer reports the command module computer looks good and the guidance and navigation system is go aboard the spacecraft.
Well, with that, he can see the spacecraft electronically.
100%.
Which is good, so we'll see separation.
Like the stream where you support the Soviet
Ready for SEP.
in the
Everything
space
looks mighty
race.
fine down here.
Same here, Ron. Thank you.
The service module actually burns away from the command module, accelerates away and starts rolling to stabilize it. That's what you saw in that animation.
We haven't had confirmation that that has actually taken place, but the animation showed it at the timeline on the of the flight plan. You see the little RCS thrusters working on the spacecraft there, stabilizing it in proper position. We should have had confirmation of separation by now.
About 29 minutes is what the... And of course, there's concern because they probably got their press kit and their information, and it says that we should have had set by now, but there hasn't been a call out. So at this time, with
separation should have taken place just a minute ago.
really the only information that we're getting is directly from NASA on the radio.
This whole sequence is under pyrotechnics, and there are 2 separate circuits.
I can see how it would have been
and Pyro
concerning.
So the likelihood of not achieving separation is very remote. And, this is typical of the whole system of pyrotechnics from launch on the booster itself all the way through all the other vehicles that we've seen expended.
It would seem logical, too, that if they're having difficulty...
We're awaiting confirmation of separation.
Well, even if separation didn't occur, the atmosphere would tear that service module to pieces. Would
I
they have a
suspect
sporting
it would.
chance of getting in even with that separation?
I'm quite sure.
They would buff it.
I think they would.
We confirm separation.
There it is.
There we go. Separation confirmation.
We can confirm separation.
I was premature with my lapel pin.
And that was separating the landing module from the control module, right?
By telemetry, they
Correct.
confirmed separation, but still no word from the crew regarding separation.
Matt, it's done right. About
separation,
6.5
achieved.
G,
It's now
6.6
27
G,
minutes
somewhere in that general
half
vicinity.
until the
So yeah, it would be
splashdown.
one hell of a ride.
CBS News coverage of Apollo 11's return to Earth will continue in a moment.
You'd notice it, that's for sure.
This is the
I
coffee.
feel like you'd get a little concussed.
It doesn't care that it looks different. It's
It
like
doesn't
coffee
care that it
from
looks
now
different.
on.
There's your racism, your casual racism. You're looking
Thank
for.
God. I
Tastes
was
different.
I was waiting.
This is the way coffee always should have tasted. Now it does. The coffee. It doesn't care who brews it. You can't brew it bad. The coffee. It doesn't care that it comes in a jar.
But does it have flavor
It
crystals though?
knows it's different from anything else in one. The coffee. It doesn't care about all the old coffee ideas. It's the coffee.
It would have been variable,
All
but
by itself.
I would venture a guess that it would be all the way through shoot deployment because you're gonna get G's on shoot deployment. So I don't know that it'd be sustained. But it's gonna
Hold
be.
up. Are we? We're talking about two different G's, I think. Here, we're talking about a deceleration of 58.8 meters per second.
You're cleared for landing.
Right.
And the
So every
spacecraft
second we're
reported back.
decreasing our
Appreciate
speed by
that.
about that much.
Or we might say one of the men aboard the spacecraft said appreciate that.
Not
first of
6
all,
times the
these
speed of
computers
sound.
aboard that I suppose we got to be careful about.
No,
the
no,
spacecraft answer
6
to
G's.
appreciate
So
that. They
6
might
times
someday,
force of gravity
Arthur,
would be
you were
your
just,
deceleration.
You and Wally were just speculating that even
The
if
difference in
separation
velocity
not
would be
take place,
equal to
that,
6
very
times your
possibly
gravity.
That, service module would burn up and blow apart and still leave
Right?
the
Or am I wrong?
spacecraft free for a
No, you're right.
safe
It's
re-entry.
I think
But
I
it
may have
certainly
read
would
it
not be
as
preferred.
the
No, I think you
misnomer
find
of
that,
G's
looking
as
at thin
speed.
layers of metal would
Oh,
work,
okay.
Arthur was
Gotcha.
saying. Of course,
Okay.
we had one dramatic case like that when John Glenn's retro pack didn't come off, and we were sweating that out. And as you mentioned, the straps burned and the system peeled off and didn't cause any problems.
These men now have 25 minutes to splash down and approximately less than that, 11 minutes or so until they enter the atmosphere. That comes at 12:35 and it's 12:25
So probably
right
5 or
now,
6
Eastern Daylight
minutes.
Time. Let's go out to North American Rockwell and Downey, California.
They
where
didn't have the
built these
equipment,
command
Crystal,
modules,
but you can do
where
so
CBS
with the
correspondent
math
Terry
and
Drinkwater
the
in North American
deceleration
Special
over
President
time.
Leo Krupp can
You
tell us
could
about the final preparations that are being made aboard Apollo 11 right now. Come in, gentlemen.
You can do the math to find
Leo,
out the.
Leo, how are the astronauts and the computers going to fly it in? And how
Look
does
at
the
that.
change in the landing
That's
kind of
cool.
affect what they do at this point?
Well, Terry, let's assume that the separation has been accomplished and the service module RCS jets
Damn
did
it, Biden,
fire to
get outta
pull the
here.
service module away. And as Wally Schirra mentioned, this is both the minus
Obama
X
and
jet
Biden in the
that's
same
backing away
place.
and also the roll
Yeah,
jets. Now, the
it's
roll jets shut off
kind of a
after
big deal
7
if you didn't
seconds.
know.
But the
All
minus X
we're
jets,
missing
which
is
are backing
definitely
the
not Clinton.
service module away, will burn until either the battery is depleted or the
I don't
fuel
want
is depleted.
not Hillary here.
And theoretically, the
I'm
service
not
module will
Hillary.
follow the command module in and splash down somewhere in the Atlantic, but the trajectory is very unpredictable. But after separation, the next thing that Mike did was fly the vehicle to the entry attitude, which I have on the 8-ball right here. And he
Same
will now
guy.
hold that entry attitude as closely as possible, flying minimum impulse, which is more or less just establishing an attitude with the vehicle and letting the aerodynamics, waiting for the aerodynamics to take a hold of the vehicle. He will verify that he's at the proper entry attitude by looking out his window and putting the horizon on the 31.7 degree line that we have etched on the window. It is
He's going
essential
by
that he holds this
fucking
entry
window
attitude because
horizons.
just like the Apollo can float either upside down or
yeah.
right side up, it can also enter the atmosphere either blunt end forward, which is the correct way, or apex forward. And if it should come in apex forward, of course, he would be in trouble. So his main concern right now after separation is to get
It
back
could come
to
in
the
that
entry
way,
attitude
but he'd be screwed.
and hold that entry attitude very precisely until he enters the atmosphere. Then the aerodynamic trim of the trim will take over and trim the vehicle, and he'll enter the atmosphere until he picks up 05G, and then the entry starts.
That will be the beginning of the end of the mission, Walter.
I think it's kind of fun to say 05G. Leo and I are accustomed to that. That's 5/100 of one whole G.
We've got we've got the picture back from the satellite,
cryptic
as you see
on
there,
things.
from
Like,
the aircraft carrier Hornet. You see the Marines getting the looks like
they were not
the
terribly
architectural
optimistic
steps
back in
ready,
the
or maybe
60s.
the
You know that?
steps, probably the steps for the astronauts to come down from
No.
their helicopter.
No, it seemed a pretty grim time
You
because
see,
we're all
they're not
waiting for
going to,
nuclear annihilation.
They're not going to have
Kinda
gone
like
very
today.
far. They don't want them any
Yeah,
greater
except today we're better at laughing about it.
the carrier with
True.
moon germs.
Some of us are.
Or any such than necessary, although they will.
Well, I
be by
love
that
science.
time.
Science
They're
is great.
Biological
Science is
isolation
fantastic.
garments,
It's the
these
best.
kind of funny sack-like things that they'll wear over their spacesuits.
So again, this is on the USS Hornet. So
Will
there's
get,
your
decontaminated
Gulfstream
by
trailer.
German
That's
side
all
as they rub
sealed.
each other down on the raft.
And
Well, they've got 21
there's
minutes
apparently a
to
shower where they're going to rub each other down
about,
with
6.5
antibacterial.
minutes to entering the Earth's atmosphere at 400,000 feet. CBS News coverage of the recovery of Apollo 11 will continue in a moment.
Is that the New Day screen? No, I think it's supposed to be so the air and the viruses don't escape.
It looks like a hermetically sealed like pathway.
Yeah.
We're taking you into
That
a
was
world
my
where a
understanding
speck
of it.
dust is a
See, the thing that gets me the most is the fact that the airstream is on pallets.
Right.
So it looks like they're about to like lift this thing off the ship with the guys still in it.
a world of complex electronic circuits. Some so tiny they can pass through the eye of a needle. At Western Electric, research engineers are finding new ways to
Drugs
make,
and
test, and assemble these circuits. We'll be making them by the millions for new phones and equipment Bell telephone companies will use.
Am I a
to
doomer
serve
or a
you.
memer? I don't know
This
yet.
is the kind of thing we do at
I think I'm a
Western
memer.
Electric, finding new and better
I
ways
think
to make the
hippies and
things your
neocons
phone
were replaced by
calls
doomers
are
and
made of.
memers. Wait, which one am I?
The astronauts now are
Definitely a
within
memer.
1,500 miles of Earth. Their speed is around
Probably.
23,000 miles an hour, picking up to that maximum of 24,677.
So as you get closer to
when
Earth, there's
5
more
minutes from
gravitational
now, they
force.
plunge
So that's
into
what's
the Earth's
increasing the
atmosphere.
speed. They're
They've
not
been
under.
told by,
They're not
the
under
guidance
thrust
officer at
anymore.
Mission Control. They're right down the
They're
middle
gonna have
of
to
the
start
corridor
reverse
for their
thrusting
landing.
eventually, though.
They reported that the service module
I
is going
don't-
by high and to their right.
I don't know that
thrusters
they do.
firing, and Houston said yes, they've got quite a lot
I
of
think they just
fuel
pull
to heat
into
up
the
the
Earth, so it
service
just
module.
they're set up on a
When the world
trajectory to
first
just pull
sees the
into the Earth.
astronauts, they're
That's
gonna
why
look
they
a lot
continue
less
to
like
speed up.
conquering heroes than like men worried about a tear gas attack, I guess. The reason is that biological isolation
the
garment. Bruce Morton can report from Houston.
What?
This is the biological isolation garment, the BIG, as it's called, because almost everything in the space program seems to be named after its initials. The garment, which the 3 crewmen aboard Apollo 11 will wear after they splash down in the Pacific Ocean on the journey from their spacecraft to the trailer, mobile quarantine facility in which they'll live between the carrier and back here in Houston. Just why this particular thing is a biological isolation garment is less clear. It does keep in
Yeah,
the
they're
heat
definitely
very well,
falling
as
back,
hot
but
as anything I've worn
Right.
this summer.
Right.
Whether it
they would have to
protect you
slow down a
against
little
germs
bit.
There are no
is another question.
thrusters. Right.
Might keep out
So
the
yeah,
average Earth
that's.
germ
I was right,
and
Bri.
protect you against mosquitoes.
They're just bringing in the
The
trajectory
moon is
and
unkind enough to come up
pulling
with
into the
anything
Earth.
stranger or stronger than that. The big
Yeah,
would be a big
yeah,
flop.
yeah.
Another
After
thing,
they
from
separated,
the
they didn't
viewpoint
have
of
any
an
control
untrained
anymore.
amateur, at least, it's not the world's
Oh,
easiest
jeez.
garment to put on, especially in something as small as a spacecraft.
So that
Took
separation we
me
were
about
waiting
5
for.
minutes to get this
What's
far
up,
into
Michael?
this one,
By the way.
with help and without even scrambling with the mask. device here, which is supposed to filter the air the astronauts breathe so that they won't contaminate the rest of the Earth. At any rate,
Contaminate the rest of the Earth.
it's more or less of a
So
makeshift
that's
device.
why we had the.
Lift
Never
the
mind.
spacecraft here to
Yep.
Houston with the astronauts still inside it. That was inconvenient and discarded. The big is its interesting replacement. Bruce Morton, CBS News at the Manned Spacecraft Center, Houston.
The big looks like
We're
an NBC
tuned
studio
in here
today.
to the Mission Control's radio transmission
Nuclear,
to
biological,
the Apollo
chemical
11
suit.
spacecraft as it hurtles down toward the atmosphere, but there hasn't been much chatter back and forth. We've learned that these are some pretty laconic test pilots up there, and they're not giving us a blow-by-blow description exactly.
3 minutes to entry.
We're
17:35 to
listening, though, for
splashdown.
anything that they do say. It's now just about 2.5 minutes to entry, 400,000 feet, 80 miles, that is, over Australia.
In the proper attitude, and 11 Houston will have you for about 3 more minutes through Redstone and then pick you up after blackout through Orion.
Do they use the bathroom in those suits? Yes.
Those are the
Yes, they do.
ground communication stations,
There's a filtration system.
ships in the Pacific.
They can then go and drink the water.
Yep.
Uriah is kind of interesting. It's a big aircraft.
They filter their urine right now on the space station and reuse it all the time.
Now 35,578 feet per second.
The Redstone is a ship, and the Uriah are these large aircraft.
Very interesting machine. Got quite a fleet of them. They're based normally at Patrick Air Force Base near the Cape.
45 seconds from entry. Blackout will begin 18 seconds after entry.
So there's so much plasma on the outside that it interrupted their communications. Plasma is the superheated air around the outside of the craft from the speed and friction, and it actually blocks out radio communication for quite some time.
Doesn't it still mess with our communication now anyway, too? Not even just radio, just like everything.
Yep. Full blackout, so.
This is to get a...
11 Houston, recommend negative on that. That'll put us in low bit rate.
1 minute to the re-entry into the atmosphere.
1 minute.
Okay, I already put it to command reset, but they still have Barbara Bull on the tape.
And I would think that out of the multiple times the astronauts would have been absolutely horrified, this is probably where I would be the most horrified ever.
That's all this about, Wally.
Those circuit breakers, if I remember right, are electrical power.
I think
batteries,
that and then first stage
on
set.
board. We're detached,
Yeah.
of course, from the service module. I think they're post-landing circuit breakers, really.
I don't know. There'd be a lot of times where I was
blackout.
going to urinate in my spacesuit.
Oh, and the catch.
Blackout begins 18 seconds after that.
I'm not very good at playing catch because my dad was there. But anywho.
Yep.
Blackout very shortly.
So 1,490 statute miles, altitude of 400,000 feet.
Blackout should be occurring
To go to splash 1,533 nautical miles.
just about now.
And calm blackout.
Now they're beginning to feel G-force for the first time right now in 8 days since they lifted off from the Cape.
At least
And that's the other thing with the G's is you haven't felt
Well, that's right. That's right.
even 1 G for a very long time.
I
So
don't mean I forgot about their going to the surface.
oh, it's fake. We just learned.
Range to go to splash 1,510 nautical miles.
This is where these pastel colors really dominate. And of course, that's why this ionic flow is cutting out the communications. You just can't penetrate it with a normal electronic signal. We did do some tests in
Elapsed time for
Gemini.
end of blackout, $195, 7 minutes even.
That's on the elapsed ground elapsed time. The end of the blackout should come 12:41, almost 12:42, 57 seconds after 12:41 or 12:42, almost Eastern Daylight Time. And that's still 5.
Wow, neat color on the
from now.
animation. Never saw that on the 13-inch black and white set. Yeah.
The test I was discussing was we used some water to cut this ionic.
I wouldn't know. I've never known not the internet.
5 hours, 12 minutes, 8 seconds.
Oh, you sweet summer child.
Oh, I'm so fucking young. I remember dial-up, though. I used to get yelled at a lot.
Okay, so my grandfather and I used to, my grandmother, who were my parents for all intents and purposes, but they, my grandmother wouldn't let us watch golf in the house. So we had this portable television that was like 4 inches on the screen, black and white. But this fucking thing was like 2 feet long. Like it was so ridiculous. Like it was this big ass metal box. And I remember watching Tiger Woods win the Masters, his first Masters, on those little 4-inch black and white TV screens. So, yeah, they were still around. They were still around. It was just like portable. It was like the first portable cell phone. It was huge. It was so big. But anyways, damn thing was like 100 pounds.
7 minutes from now.
It was ridiculous.
Glory, we're not getting back into the poop sock conversation.
Leave the airwaves clear for the recovery forces.
The drogue deploy, that comes at 23,300 feet, and those are the small chutes that come out to
the brick, yep.
Pull the large chutes, the big chutes that are necessary for the safe descent. They pull those out of the top of the
Getting yelled at by Dad when I answer the phone. Yeah, that sucked too.
The main chutes come out at 10,500 feet. Or about
Wait, you got to get yelled at by your dad? Lucky.
3/4 of a minute after the drogues. We have another 3 minutes now.
Shut up, Brian.
4 minutes until the end of the blackout.
I remember specifically, I was always trying to play S4 League, which is a Japanese anti-parkour game on dial-up. My mom would get super upset because I was constantly
got a
using the
visual
internet.
contract from Mariah 3. They're seeing this glowing re-entry like a comet coming back to the Earth's atmosphere. A visual contact. They're watching it. So it's obviously where they expected it to be.
Now, there, that proves that the fact is still with us. I think you deserve a pat in the back for that one, Arthur. He's correcting both of us. I went along with you. It's not a comet, it's a meteor.
It was like this, but ours was bigger. I swear to God, ours was not.
Was
this
it Club
fancy.
Penguin?
This is what the TV was like, but ours was longer. Like ours was before this model, but same idea.
What the hell is that thing?
It was a 4-inch black and white television that was
It looks
portable
like a fucking
at the
tackle
time.
box.
It was so heavy, but it was portable at the time, and you could receive signal from the antenna from wherever you were at. It was crazy. It was literally crazy. Yours had knobs. We weren't that lucky.
If a comet came back into the atmosphere, we'd be in trouble.
He's just trying to get some
We've got
credibility.
now 2 minutes until the until we should get to the end of the blackout. The maximum G-force should be just about now.
It had a handle, Obama, but it was only like 4.5 green, bro.
Gs. They weigh 6.5 times what they do on Earth right now, being pressed pretty well into those couches.
We weren't playing video games on it. You couldn't see
Must be a little
video
hard
games.
to move.
Maybe Pong.
About with that much.
Yeah, that one was a newer version,
Time
but
it
that's
is,
the only
although
one that I could
we
find
can take up to 10
quickly.
as a normal reentry with this vehicle.
Same kind of
We've all
same
been
kind of
trained
thought
to
process, same
work
kind of
with
idea.
16G, but we're lying on our backs. It's not as if we were seated in a chair as we are now.
Now we're just 2 minutes from the end of blackout. It should come at 41 minutes and 57 seconds after the
Time before the internet existed.
after the
God,
hour.
you are old, bigger.
This is when those thrusters are really busy. They're pumping away like men to keep this thing stable.
Wait, there are thrusters?
There's RCS, so there's nothing that can.
What are they
There's
doing
not
to
an
keep it
engine,
stable right
but
now?
there are
Well, it's an attitude
traction control
system,
systems
and each
or
of the
RCS
various
thrusters.
thrusters are working very hard. The vehicle isn't totally stable at this lower point.
They
It
cannot
has
provide
different changes
thrust,
of
but they
trim
can
or stability.
change
Of course, the final
attitude.
phase when we come.
One has visual contact.
Oh, that's good news.
Well, they must be really coming right down on the target point if they're all sighting right where they expected to, and right in the middle of the
Wow, that was the oldest guy I've ever heard.
helicopters and the RIA, the communication ships. That's a picture, obviously, up there in that sky, and they obviously think and hope on the aircraft carrier that we might be able to see them.
I said bigger with a D. Duh, duh,
We got a
duh.
lot of light on our monitor up here, and I hope that we see it. It's to be seen.
No, you can still see it. You can see the red
I
ball.
don't see anything in that picture.
Oh, up in the upper right.
Command
See it?
module.
Upper right of the screen. Is that it?
Hmm?
Awfully tough because it's
What are we talking about up here?
Broadcasting to the Apollo 11 in the blind. It should be just coming out of blackout at this moment. So they're broadcasting to. Oh,
well,
boy.
it wasn't as
In other words,
spectacular
she's right
as
on the pipe.
Apollo's 10.
Right down the pipe.
Apollo 10, but
On the target.
clearly visible, even with cloud conditions being what they are.
And that's a television camera strained
I still don't see
shit.
shit.
Well, I thought I did. It was a reflection in the.
That re-entry was at about 400,000 feet. Now they'll be going
We got
into the
about
blackout period.
another minute.
Yeah, I don't
half to those
see.
shoots coming out. And
And
let's
5 minutes
listen
after
to
entry,
Keith
they should
McBee
be
now aboard
pumping
the
their
Hornet.
drogue chutes.
Maybe they're seeing something.
I know.
Followed by the
I
main
know.
mains.
I try to really
That's
duh
like we hope for
it out.
audio. Hope we can pick up sound-wise the double sonic boom. Second one being an echo on the water. Ron Nesson, we think, has a better sighting from his position up near the bridge. Ron?
That fireball was the spacecraft, of course, coming back into the atmosphere at speed which caused the spacecraft to heat up to about 7,000 degrees. And it caused the spacecraft to glow, as you saw, like a meteor.
Close your eyes
but
real
actually,
hard, you
air
can
conditioning
see it.
inside the spacecraft kept the astronauts at a comfortable
Trust me, I'm trying.
We should be hearing the double sonic boom.
And I have it on a 60-inch TV, so there's no shortage
The
of
astronauts at this point
being able to see it.
are dressed in their two-piece white flight coveralls. Here's a late report saying that the Hornet's radar room has gotten a contact on the spacecraft as it comes
Are
down.
those guys walking around on the bottom, or are those like searchlights?
No, those are humans
Meanwhile,
walking
we're
around.
waiting
They're
here
on
for
the aircraft
confirmation of
carrier
drogue
for
chute
recovery.
deployment, which should have come about.
Oh, okay, because it kind of looks spooky.
Come just about this
It
second
does.
now. There we are. We have confirmation that the drogues are out. The drogue shoots out at 23,300 feet. The first shoots are out. Now, one more event we want to get confirmation of, and that's those big shoots, which are the main ones that have to do the job, and that should come in another 26, 27 seconds from now.
I don't buy it. I don't see it yet.
Very accurate area, some 6 miles by 10 miles.
It should be bright as hell if it's at
Liberty overriding
7,000 F.
the audio
Yeah.
from the Hornet,
really the
because
sonic
they're
boom
on
and
the
then
Hornet.
the
They
echo
cannot
of
get
boom
this
off the motor.
same report of the events from Mission Control.
It is dawn. It is darker.
Now we're waiting
They've
for
said
the
that.
confirmation
So.
of the main chutes. Should come right now.
I don't even see the drogue.
Well, there's the double sound barriers, maybe.
No wonder 60s, 70s horror movies are so great. The technology alone made them
Confirmation
terrifying.
yet from Houston.
True.
Should be on main chutes now.
Should be, Houston says, but they don't have that confirmation either. They're at 10,500 feet.
Hornet reports sonic boom a short time ago.
So the other possibility is the camera didn't pick it up because
That'll be nice to get
could have
that
been slightly
confirmation.
off.
Minutes gone by now since the scheduled opening of the mains.
Camera isn't pointing high enough. That's what I was saying. Like, it probably isn't in the correct location.
Come on, Houston, give us the word.
Yeah, this is the
We're
last
just
critical.
under 4 minutes.
Is that something?
Landing.
No, just water.
I think we also have some word from the Hornet that the main would open.
We will continue to monitor.
Hey, Michael, you know, you're spoiling the ending for me, okay?
But we will not initiate a call from now on to the spacecraft from the control.
It's like that jerk who spoiled the Titanic for me.
Oh, you thought it just made it to its
We're getting,
location safe?
I thought it did.
Oh,
Nothing from Mission
I'm
Control
sorry.
or from the spaceship.
We've almost become accustomed to seeing the chutes from the carrier.
I bet you were shocked when they got attacked by aliens.
It's going to happen every time.
No, you can see the cloud cover there
Yeah.
now as dawn begins to break over the Pacific there. We're just getting a little picture, and we can see how heavy the cloud
You
cover
can
is.
see clearly now the rain is gone.
Hot dog.
See, I thought the Titanic just got picked up by Shadow Lugia and flown into the
There
middle
they
of the
are.
desert.
And they're obviously all right. The chutes have deployed.
Gotta throw in a little bit of a gaming reference. Sorry.
Apollo 11.
It was a GameCube game. What?
Well, there's their position on board is 13 degrees 30.
Made by Japan.
That's 3
Still.
tenths north.
Hornet has voice contact.
161.15 west.
Aircraft reports visual.
Weep.
Very close
Three
to me.
full chutes.
Aircraft has visual on the chutes.
Great, we still don't. And we're only 2 minutes to splashdown, supposedly.
Hot dog. Apollo 11 has made it. Obviously, they're close enough. The Hornet has visual contact with them, can see the chutes coming down. We cannot see them with the television cameras yet because of that
Hornet reports spacecraft right on target.
cover. Right on target, according to the Hornet. They've still got a little bit of a ride in that slightly rough water, 3 to 6 foot waves. You see some of them there. So,
Ron, right about now, the main chutes should be deploying about 10,200.
They're a little behind our
I think they're a little behind there on the Hornet.
Dallas, they report they're at 2,500 feet. And since they break through these clouds at 1,500 feet, we should get a look at them.
Apparently the clouds are even lower than...
There's no holding pattern here, though. That's fortunate.
It's a good thing they're not trying to get into Kennedy.
The landing speed,
Airport.
if they land on all three chutes, will be 21 miles an hour. They can land safely.
Was it too soon to talk about that? Did you not do a conspiracy show about that situation? Which one's that? Oh, the sub thing? No, I kind of stayed away from the sub thing.
Now, Dallas, that the splashdown is going to be 9 miles.
Yeah, the Titan Titanic. Like
border, which would mean off to the left
I
side
think
of the
I
ship, and in fact,
talked about it briefly, but I didn't get into it very heavy.
Just a late word here. A swim
Probably for the best.
follow visual.
Maybe I did shoot a show on that. I don't remember.
Well, if it's coming down 9 miles away, that's just going to be at the outer limit of visibility from the ship to horizon.
What's likely is I probably threw it in the news, but I don't think I did a dedicated show on it.
They're now at 500 feet. We have word here.
Splashdown should be just now. Whoop.
That was in chorus.
They're back from the moon. Astronauts Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins landing in the Pacific Ocean, southwest of Hawaii.
And you know, Ron, it's interesting that they came out, according to my calculations, 5:51, which was the time planned months and months ago. 5:51 a.m. ship time. 12:51
Columbia has returned.
Oh, good. You can say this Columbia is the...
Stable 2 is upside down. The flotation bags will right the spacecraft.
I've tried that too.
They landed upside down.
You can pick up some of that transmission from the helicopter hovering overhead and the Hornet, and a little bit from the spacecraft.
All the views you see today were on film, not videotape. Yeah. Yep. They're all...
There's no problem in the stable 2 position. We have 3 plastic
like I
flags
said, these
in
ones
place.
are
It's uncomfortable as far
they're
as standing
AI
on the strap that
remastered
you saw.
of the original 16 millimeters.
Imagine laying on your face, looking down on your shoulder harness.
But you come around as soon as the bags are inflated within a minute and a half.
Right. And then the only minor problem there is that the air becomes a little stagnant and the temperature goes up a little bit, not much.
You can see from the Hornet, the wake of the Hornet as it makes that turn to go over the 9 miles to the command module.
All engines ahead full. Well, in this case, the Columbia...
It takes 8 to 10 minutes for the flotation bags to right.
So this massive ship has to travel 9 miles now.
That's not
Yeah.
No, that was an old
Massive carrier has to fire up and move 9 miles.
Getting ready to deploy swimmers.
You got a good idea of what direction the Hornet's steaming.
Thing probably only moves like 30 miles an hour at most.
There, and there's President Nixon on the bridge.
That's full sending it.
Well, they just talked about the swimmers are ready to jump in, so obviously they're talking about the rubber-dubbed poor men in a tub thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're talking about my swimmers, huh?
It's a great shot. Yeah. I think he probably can't see much either with those lights on him.
No, he can't anyway. He's still 8 miles away unless they give him a pair of binoculars.
This is our second one, I guess. It tilted over after landing. Actually, you don't land in stable 2. You land in the upright position, and as the parachutes drag you, it tends to tilt you over. It's stable either upright or stable nose down. And of course, again, we have a case where we're nose down. I see Dr. Payne there pointing.
A happy man. Admiral McCain over there on the left.
Yes.
God, that would be so exciting.
You said something earlier, Walter, and it's so true. They're great spacecraft, but lousy boats.
I think I was quoting you from back in Mercury days. Actually, you were the fellow who first said that.
And that's one of the reasons that we have to get them out of that machine. If it's not a nice environment to live in on the water, we take in outside air, which is very humid, bring it in, which of course is quite breathable. but it tends to get warm and stuffy. You don't get the fresh air that you would with the hatch open. Of course, in this case, we don't want the hatch open, so we couldn't afford to keep them in the spacecraft.
This spacecraft hatch will be opened a minimum amount of time before they get these biological immunization garments on, isolation garments on. The hatch will just be opened, the garments will be thrown in by the diver, the hatch closed again, and then they'll put the garments on, and then they climb out. So they're going to be in there a little longer than they would otherwise.
Yes.
Quickly, just open the hatch, chuck it in, and nothing will get out. None of those deadly viruses will get out into the Earth.
As the Russians, of course, have done.
Well, duh, that's how they work.
Except for the one they brought back from the moon, they did recover it in the Indian Ocean. That was one of the first sea recoveries. But that wasn't manned, of course.
The problem, of course, is a fantastic increase in weight to provide a land landing, and we'll get out of this Model A age, I hope, one of these days. Of course, that's what we're looking for, is this reusable shuttle for the advanced space station. It's the keystone to this.
The DC-3 of space, which we hope will be along in 10 years or so.
Surely would help.
We're testing those aerodynamic landing models even now out at Edwards Air Force Base. The progress is on.
Miller there, too?
Is that he? Not sure who that is.
The land landing was proposed when the Apollo program first came up back in '61.
Oh, that'd be terrible.
Back Senator Clinton Anderson, who was on the space committee, was really
Everyone
pushing
voices
for a
can't
landing site
escape
in
for
Arizona.
capsule if only open for a short period of time. That's fine.
We wanted to have a big airport, I think, down there.
I disagree.
That's one way of getting it.
That's what Howard Hughes, I think, is aiming for as a spaceport.
He has a long strip. I don't think you want to land on that one.
Let's see if we can pick up some of this transmission now. It's getting a little clearer. It's now stable 1. In other words, it is now upright.
So that took about maybe 6 minutes from touchdown, which is about right.
In case you missed it, the spacecraft splashed down 9 miles from the carrier. And the carrier is now steaming toward it. Overhead, you hear the air boss reporting back on the condition of the spacecraft.
Yeah, Eliza.
After it landed, it turned over into what is called stable 2 position, a confident appellation given by mission control. It's upside down. They're hanging.
Just watched info about the Cybertruck. Yeah, they just did the big release event, so
pouches, but they call
I haven't got a
stable
chance to
2
watch it,
because
but
the spacecraft seal is not going to sink.
I will
They
probably this
inflate
weekend.
these flotation bags around the spacecraft, and slowly it rights itself. It's righted now, except it's still canted 10 to 20 degrees, apparently, Air Boss says.
Walter, just thinking, Columbia is the gem of the Pacific Ocean.
All right, Wally. Columbia's the gem of the world, I think.
It surely is. Now, I wasn't being facetious. It really is a precious jewel to all of us.
First swimmers in the water.
Might even say the moon is another district of Columbia.
Oh, now we lost that round.
Now, there's swimmers in the water. The swimmers will attach the flotation bags, be sure that the spacecraft is safe as it floats there, and when the hatches are opened, sudden waves or tilting will not flood the spacecraft and sink it, as happened with late Gus Grissom's second Mercury flight, we learn on each of these flights, and that's the one we learned on that one. Then the swimmers will all go upwind so that when the hatch is opened, they will not be contaminated if there indeed were any moon germs aboard. And the one swimmer, Lieutenant Clancy Heidelberg, 25 years old, who now lives in San Diego but comes from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, will stand up, open the hatch, and he'll drop in the biologic isolation garments. Then the hatch will be closed. They'll don those garments, climb out, and along with Heidelberg, they will rub themselves down completely with sodium hypochloride. It is hoped a moon germicide. And then
Sodium
be brought by
hypochloride.
helicopter back
Sounds
to the
fun.
waiting Hornet. CBS News coverage, the recovery of Apollo 11 will continue in a moment.
MTD, G-Tech. Moon transmitted disease.
Every day, every man, woman, and child in America throws out about 5 pounds of trash. Plastic, glass, metal, garbage, and paper. It costs over $4.5 billion every year to cart the mess away. Some cities have to freight refuse hundreds of miles to a dump. The world is running out of dumps. Officials estimate it will take 16 years to solve the problem. The International Paper Company wants to speed that up.
That's what I'm saying.
We already make papers that turn into wholesome mulch instead of litter, and paper that dissolves in running water. And we're testing ways to turn trash into clean, strong construction materials. It's our job to bring you more and better paper.
All right, I'm going to skip this ad.
It's also our
I know
job.
we love the ads, but
Go upwind. Heidelberg will drop into the hatch the biologic isolation garments. Aboard the aircraft carrier Hornet, President Nixon, who's waiting to greet the returned astronauts, has just left the bridge of the Hornet to go down and have a bite of breakfast while they wait for this recovery to take place. The collar has been attached, we're now advised, and inflated
Marine One.
so that the command module Apollo 11 is safely afloat in the Pacific. It landed about 9 miles from the carrier Hornet, but the coordinates as given by the onboard computer on the spacecraft and read to us by Michael Collins just as they landed.
we all hate 5-second YouTube ads, but when it's object, 5-minute
so
commercial
they were
breaks.
within 1 mile of their target point.
Yes, it's right on. The estimate was, for example, 19 minutes north. The degrees don't even count now. And 10 minutes west. And it turns out it was 18 minutes north and 9 minutes west. Within 1 minute is 1 mile. Great.
So they're right on the target. As close as your record, I think, maybe as close as your record, 1/3 of a mile off on Apollo 7. Of course, that wasn't from 250,000 miles out the moon.
No, they had a much longer walk.
They were on the second of the predicted landing of the flight plan.
Kid wants Legos because of me.
Has altered slightly
Love
by
Legos.
their
They're
flight,
fantastic.
itself, and right on the target point.
Hello,
the raft
Legos.
is now in the water and inflated, and we'll hear momentarily that Lieutenant Heidelberg is in the water, and then that hatch will be open for the first time since they took off from Cape Kennedy. Air Boss reports that the spacecraft is riding very smoothly. They're still 9 miles from the ship. That's the estimate of Air Boss. It must be a little closer now if they were 9 miles upon landing, because the Hornet's been steaming toward them, I suppose, at a pretty good clip, probably up to 15 or 20 knots on the way over there.
15 to 20 knots, Bry, is the top speed of this bad boy.
20 knots, it would take them a half hour to reach roughly a half hour for 9 miles.
I'm just anxious to see that.
There's a picture of mission control, and I suppose the cigars are out.
Smoking cigars at Mission Control Houston. Try that shit today.
Can you identify those fellows that were?
It's Cliff Charlesworth, and with his back to us, one of the flight directors. Glenn Lunny, I see on the far side. The whole gang are in there.
Milton Windler.
Milton Windler's in the middle. Yeah. Milt's the one that's smiling and looking very happy.
Let's listen to this transmission. I think we're hearing. I don't know whether
Recovery 1 getting ready to deploy the swimmer with the biological isolation garment.
They certainly should have. I don't know why it never was, but
The other swimmers will.
That's awesome. Yeah, Brian and I were doing them on Fridays for the longest time. So now SpaceX has fast boats, and they can get there quickly. Not 35 minutes later. Spacecraft moves 24,000 miles an hour. Ship moves 10.
Bag of Bigs. Sound like pigs, didn't it?
It is so hard to understand some of these things that they're saying.
We were down
Bag
in
of
Houston
Bigs.
when they were packing up those
The-
bigs to be shipped out. They must have sent
the biological
50 of
suits.
them out to the aircraft carrier.
The swimmer with the biological isolation garments is in the raft next to the spacecraft.
I never saw
Biological
somebody,
isolation
They
garments.
said they just wanted to be sure they had plenty in case they had to send a whole team of divers or something like that out to get the guys.
Well, they're deployed throughout the recovery force. These garments. The destroyers have them in case they overshoot on either side, under or overshoot.
So Lieutenant Heidelberg is in the raft alongside of the spacecraft.
And the helo is lowering the astronauts' bigs, or biological isolation garments, to Lieutenant Heidelberg.
Well, we can all be sorry we didn't get to see a picture of the Apollo 11 returning, either through the atmosphere when the chutes had opened, but it's certainly a minor point in this day of joy that they're back safely.
I'm sure there's some champagne bottles popping right now all over the country. Most appropriately.
Wow.
As soon as the flight controllers see that
Wow.
crew on this television set, they'll be going across the street, across NASA 1.
I was going to wait until we saw it
Hotels
and
over
then
there and,
call it
begin the
for
celebration.
tonight.
They've earned it.
Well-deserved celebration.
It was a lot of work to get the
I don't think
trajectory
it's very
worked
much
out so
further.
well. Long, long years of work.
And you realize the...
I'm going to make the executive decision to skip ahead a little bit.
That's pretty stable in 3 to 6 foot ways when you've got a 12-foot command module there. That's Air Boss that you're hearing. That's the commander of the recovery helicopters, who's back from
Skip
the
ahead one
moon,
more time.
Apollo 11.
So there are the...
Boy, there'll be a spacecraft exhibited around the world.
I wonder who's going to get dibbies on that.
Yeah.
So I believe that this
Well, I
is
guess it'll
the
go to
capsule
Smithsonian as a
right
permanent
here.
thing, I should think, but they'll certainly do a lot of touring before that.
These are the choppers going out there. Yep, Goey. I think it was last week we talked about the computing power differential, right?
Yeah, last week we did, yeah.
I don't know what that decontaminant they're using really is going to be.
Actually, maybe even the time before that, which was like 2 weeks before that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Went over at the computing that was in like the equipment that they brought up.
They talked about sodium
Yeah,
hydrochloride,
that might have
they
been
left
2 weeks
there.
ago then.
which is really very much similar to the housewives' normal bleaching agent.
Housewives bleaching agent. and among other things. By the way, I have a lot of YouTube shorts out. You should go take a look at them.
A lot of them contain dog.
Not anymore. Most of them are political at this point.
Oh, okay.
Or Elon Musk saying, "Go fuck yourself."
God, that made me so hard.
Go fuck yourself. Mostly peaceful Ireland. President Milley. Biden sniffing a kid. Biden sniffing a kid. Malice at the Palace.
As the
Biden. Ramaswamy. China and California. Yeah, most of them are political at this point.
completed his decontamination of the command module.
I use my cell phone for like 4 things. And it's not even that much porn.
After that hatch was open.
Lies and slander.
After the hatch was opened and then closed again, inside, while right now the astronauts are putting on those garments over there.
All right, Obama, chill.
Lieutenant Heidelberg is taking the decontaminant fluid and carefully scrubbing down the spacecraft all over again in case little germs came crawling out on their 6 feet or 9 feet or 12 feet or whatever moon germs would have, if there were any.
Yes, I can.
What kind of legs do they have?
Yes.
What was your last prediction?
Let's not count it out, Glory. Let's not count it out.
Hoping for moon fossils.
All right, so here, this has got to be
about the moon
craft now.
We're going to find out a lot
That
about
is
it.
definitely the craft with like 4 pixels.
But
Yep. Okay, there's an arrow right there.
it shows you the spacecraft. The from the seismograph that these fellows left, seismometer that these fellows
Definitely
left
a
on the
Fed.
moon, Armstrong and Aldrin, one of the experimental packages.
1,000,000%.
Yesterday, they got a very definite reading that was either a moon quake or the impact of a meteoroid. They figured the meteoroid now, by reading those graphs out there, maybe you saw the Florida Morning Dispatches, they figured there would have to have been 10 tons meteoroid to have given them that kind of a readout, and that's a very rare size to hit. So really the people who believe that the moon is alive, that it is hot, molten in its interior, that it is still moving in a surface structure, even as is the Earth.
But it's
have really
not.
got sort of a leg up on the theory in the theory department today.
Well, this is really certain because those Rolling Stone tracks.
Here we got a pretty good picture now, right now.
By visual hand signals through the hatch window.
And as you hear from Mission Control, Lieutenant Heidelberg is giving visual hand signals through the window to the astronauts.
It's amazing to think back less than an hour ago, they were whistling down on a landing approach, and now we're working with hand signals.
So now we can see it.
Right. Now we're getting a much better picture now. We're getting closer with the Hornet.
That's so cool.
And by the time they open that hatch and climb out, we may be close enough with those long lenses on our television cameras.
That's very true.
Get a
It's very true.
reasonably decent first look as the Apollo 11 astronauts come back to us here on Earth.
I actually think that's why I like doing shit
Subsequently
like
have a
this,
waiting
like the YouTube and stuff like that.
be
It's because I
delayed
love
for a few
to
days.
witness history, be a
August
part of
11th
it,
when they get out of isolation.
and be watching when it happens. Like it's
suspicious.
there's something to it. It's just fun to watch.
Open the hatch. First astronaut out of the hatch, Air Boss says. Looks pretty rough out there, won't it?
Mm-hmm. That flotation color helps make it stable. It's a large donut.
Exactly. Exactly.
Way back in Mercury.
I appreciate that. I try to help.
First astronaut is now emerging.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, before the astronauts come out, I'm gonna cut it tonight, and then we'll pick up the second part of EDL next week. Because I didn't think they were coming out for like 5 more minutes, but so next week, what we'll take in the astronauts egressing from the capsule, getting into their space trailer. Nixon talks. They give a little wave and some communication through the glass to Richard Nixon. We get some more information about what's going on. So, I once again, I think this is absolutely incredible and one of the most impactful things in our entire history as a human civilization. Like what was done here was nothing short of absolutely amazing. And I think it's important to take it in and relive it and really get a chance to look at what was going on in that time. So hopefully in the next 5, 6, 7 years, something like that, we'll be able to watch it again, but watch it live this time from the Artemis missions and see some more people landing on the moon and be able to witness it in real time. So it's when America came together to do something that was more than us, bigger than us, more spectacular. And I think the privatization could potentially bring that to us, but as far as people banding together from across industry, across the world to really fight for a common goal, I think we've lost that spirit. I'd love space travel to be the one that could bring it back, but I think for the most part that's gone, and that's what sucks for me. So
it wasn't
no
for
worries.
space travel in the first place, though. It was to beat the commies.
Well, that's true. That's true. But if space travel's the medium, I know what it was for, but I'm okay with the medium being space travel to beat the commies this time around too. So
we just need to beat some commies, you know.
Well, China's getting awful. Smack them around a little bit, but
smack them around, send a guy to the moon, easy peasy.
Science is fun. Well, hopefully we can hold it off for a little bit longer. So that's true. I think the hard times that came before was what made the spectacular individuals that were able to do this. So it was Russia. India landed, Russia crashed. So Russia crashed spectacularly.
You could hear the boom.
Didn't even fucking slow down. It's like, stop sign, fuck that. I'm going.
They blew straight through that red.
Yeah. Just 2 moonshots later, America had become bored until Apollo 13 and quickly became bored again. Yeah. It's like, no worries, Crystal. It's we have such a short, limited attention span. And we're really not helping ourselves out with the way that we consume media, with shorts, with things like that today. Facebook Reels. Dazzler and I were talking about that the other night in Discord. Just if you can't get it to somebody in 15 seconds, they don't care. And if we can't lengthen our attention spans and be working for a greater goal or the greater good, I think that we're in trouble. And that's any country on the face of the earth. So I think Elon is right. Mars is the place to be now. Yeah, the problem is I don't think we can get there. Not with the current technology.
It would take something special.
It would. It would take some kind of advancement to be able to get there. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. I thought they were good words. No, I understand what you're saying. We get it. Chat, thanks for joining me. Like, I love this stuff. it's awesome. I love sharing it with people because I think it is exceptionalism for not only Americans but the human race to begin with. It does. Nah, I've just it's not there yet. I promise. It isn't. Not to send humans. We could send robots there tomorrow, and we have. But to send humans, it's just not there yet. So, hey, no worries. Thanks for stopping by, Digger. But yeah, thanks everybody for stopping by and sharing that with me. Brian, thanks for joining me, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
And tomorrow, we need to learn more about history. Most of it is just a paragraph in a high school history book for us. Yeah, and that's expand your knowledge base and learn a little bit. So tomorrow we continue developing in Detroit, Michigan. So 1778 to 1860. So that's what's coming up tomorrow. Monday we get back to the Matt Moore trial with Matthew Moore and potentially Dog Mama if she's feeling better by then. And that's what we got coming up. So all shows at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you soon, guys. Have a good night. Take care, everybody.